For many of you who may have just moved to Santa Clarita and are soaking up the suburban awesomeness that is the wonderland of Awesome Town, you might not realize the colorful and storied and even sometimes checkered history that led us up to this point. I've always been fascinated by how Santa Clarita came into being, and especially its humble beginnings. I mean, we actually have a road, a landmark, or a set of landmarks, and a high school named after a 19th century bandito. We have interesting stories of how the railroad came into being, how our roads had been built to Santa Clarita. We've been trying to get up here in the 19th century. It's crazy. And all kinds of other wonderful historical artifacts and things that you can actually take advantage of at the Santa Clarita Historical Society. And interestingly enough, one of the historical societies, I'm going to probably say possibly the youngest member at the age of 17, Evan Decker, is being recognized by the William S. Hart Museum as Volunteer of the Year. Here with me this morning is Evan Decker. Good morning.
Good morning.
And you are how old?
17 years old.
17 years old. So you were born in the late 90s.
Yes.
And so most people your age, Evan, are maybe focused on whatever the latest music is, or the latest movies, or the latest video games, or whatever. You are fascinated with Santa Clarita's history, probably even more than I am.
Yeah, probably.
And let's talk about this. First of all, you've been volunteering since you were about in the 8th grade, is that right?
Yes, I've been volunteering with the Historical Society since I was 13 years old.
Okay. How did you come, what led you to that?
Well, my 8th grade teacher, we were doing a volunteer project in 8th grade at Rio Norte, and she said that we were supposed to go out and volunteer, and I decided I liked history at the time, but at the time I liked presidential history. So then I decided maybe I'll focus more on, go out to the community and go to the Historical Society and see what they need, because they are such a wonderful organization. And I went over there and they greeted me, they treated me like family, so that's how I stayed. So really, my 8th grade teacher got me into it.
Outstanding. We actually had some presidential history here in Santa Clarita with some that have visited the oldest continually operating restaurant in Los Angeles County, being Saugus Cafe.
Saugus Cafe. Yeah.
But so let's moving on. You've done so many things. I want to talk about some of the things that you've worked on, such as the St. Francis Dam Disaster National Memorial Act. Tell me a little bit about your involvement with that.
Well, the Memorial Act is it's basically we're protecting the site around the dam. Well, the dam site itself, and then there's also going to be a area around it that's going to be protected also. I've been involved with that. They brought me in probably around January of 2014, and I've been to all the meetings. It's very interesting. It's a great. Buck McKeon introduced it, but then, as you know, he's retired. So Steve Knight is supposed to reintroduce it sometime this month.
Well, that's good. And, you know, the St. Francis Dam, of course, for 1928, one of at least Southern California's most horrific disasters outside of earthquakes that have happened to us, like 400 and something people killed back then.
Actually, we think it's about 600.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. See, very good. And you can explore the dam site, and there are tours and everything, but there's nothing that's really protecting that area, right?
No,
anybody can get in there, and so there's not, I mean, there are still ruins. You can still see it, especially if you take a really good tour by someone who knows the area. And but there's nothing protecting it, which is really important.
It is, yeah. And let me say that there is a tour that the Historical Society hosts. It's in March, I think the 14th this year. I'll double check on that. But they do a lecture. One of our local historians by the name of Frank Rock, he does a lecture in the Saugus train station for free. And then for $35, we get 2 buses, and we bus you up to the dam site. And you hike about a mile, and then he'll explain what happened, and you'll get to be able to hike on the actual base of the dam that's still there. So, and that's something else. I've never been on it, but because I've had to stay in Dothan, but I've heard it's it's something else, and it's one of our biggest fundraisers.
Yeah, I've known Frank Rock a long time. He's actually taken me on personal tours of that, so it's very fascinating. Let's talk a little bit about the Historical Society. Very exciting things happening, right?
Oh, yes.
So tell me a little bit about what's going on.
Well, first off, we are getting, within the year, a 1940s Pullman dining car.
Wow.
Yes. Fully restored from Northern California. And stay tuned, folks, within the year. And it's going to be something. It's going to be used for dinner parties, murder mystery, event rentals in particularly. We are also getting a Southern Pacific caboose. For any train enthusiasts who are out there, that we're getting the cupola style caboose. So that's one of the more lesser known or hard to come by cabooses that you can find.
Right, so that's very fascinating, and those funds will help also continue the funding of
Preservation.
and working of the SCV Historical Society and the preservation of Santa Clarita. So we got Heritage Junction. For those of you who haven't had the opportunity going to William S. Hart Park, first of all, tour the mansion.
Absolutely, it's spectacular.
And Heritage Park, they've got the ranch house there, and they've got all kinds of wonderful preserved homes that you can actually check out, and in some cases walk into at certain times. Weekends are good to go see it. I would say also very important with regard to the railroad is that's what helped to build what is now the Santa Clarita Valley. Henry Mayo Newhall, who leased the land for $1 to the railroads to bring that business in. Very clever.
Yeah.
Clever man.
Yeah, he was.
So Evan Decker, SCVI student. You're a student at SCVI. Are you a senior this year?
Yes, sir.
Congratulations. And LA County Volunteer of the Year named by the William S. Hart Museum and Mansion. Very excited to have you on. Thank you so much. We could spend all day talking about Santa Clarita history. But alas, I've got to get to some traffic and other things. But congratulations and keep up the good work. We're very, very proud of you.